You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, and if you're like me, you want to grow a business you love that gives you financial freedom and fits your lifestyle. Every week, you'll get strategy and unfiltered opinions from me and other successful business owners that will inspire you to make big moves in your business. When we work together, we not only grow faster, we also amplify each other's voices. Are you ready to build your business on your terms? Let's jump in. Anna Joy, thank you so much for joining us on the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you. I know you have a lot to share about your journey, and that's where I would love to kick off the interview with tell us a little bit about yourself, your entrepreneurial journey, and what you're doing today.
Thanks, Monica. I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate this opportunity. And if I could give a shout out to all of those bloggers out there who are working like crazy and not seeing results in their business, and also those who are just hate selling, because I'm an introverted blogger and I hate selling. So I started blogging in 2014, back when we had like flip phones, a really long time ago. And it was very, very part-time. And back then they were just like, oh, start putting stuff online, make a blog, everybody will get money, passive income, whatnot. And it was very part-time. I was homeschooling. I would just do a little bit when I could. Fast forward to 2020, I had already created a couple products. I had grown an email list. I wanted to put my kids into private school. So it was, my husband said, well, if you can make enough money blogging, we can put the kids in private school. So I started full-time at that point. I had a few products. I had an email list, was trying to sell things. It wasn't going great. And I was mostly doing the launch model where create a new product, send it out to your email list, get, some sales, but not enough to keep you going for the next 3 months. And then lots of freebies to nurture the email list as I was going along. Wasn't working great. So spring of 2021, I started running Facebook ads to a couple products. And that was great to learn how to do sales pages and everything. But summer of 2021, iOS changes made it really difficult. I was able to continue running ads profitably with all kinds of workarounds to try and figure out tracking. That's a whole nother story, but continued limping it along until January of 2022, when lawsuits against Facebook forced them to stop targeting anybody based on religious, political, sexual orientation, or medical. At that point, it was like a light switch turned off. My ads just completely overnight were done. I could not get those things to work.
And for reference, the name of your blog is
kidsbibleteacher.com.
Yeah, so quite literally the interests that you needed to target, they just disappeared off the map on Facebook.
Correct. Yes. And I was looking for basically Bible teachers. And the closest I could get after they shut off that niche was targeting Joanna Gaines. I mean, seriously, I couldn't get anywhere close to anything Bible or Christian related. And that affected a lot of people. I know people selling essential oils for migraine headaches could not run Facebook ads profitably anymore. So a lot of people were affected by that. So I kept struggling. At that point, I was like, okay, I don't know how to sell. I cannot, as a solo entrepreneur, create a new product every 2 weeks to launch. Yeah, I kept trying for a few months to see if I could make Facebook ads work again. Nothing. March and April of 2022, I made a net profit for both months combined of negative $164. I just didn't know what to do. Basically, through 2022, I was pulling my own salary from business savings, just trying to figure out how to turn this thing around.
Okay, so your kids were in private school then in 2022 while you're going negative. So this is a great story. First, okay, so going back to 2014 when you started, what made you decide to blog? What was that all about? What made you decide that would be a good thing to do?
I really wanted to be home with my kids.
Okay.
I was homeschooling. I'm a registered nurse.
Oh.
I did not want to go work 12-hour shifts on med-surg, holidays, weekends, all the rest of it. I wanted the flexibility of being home.
So you went into blogging wanting to monetize it. It wasn't like that was your idea all along, was to monetize it.
Absolutely.
Were you a display ad person? I can't remember if you are a display ad person now.
No, I did not. I never ran display ads. First of all, I wasn't getting enough traffic for a really long time. And then I was jumping onto some other Christian blogs that were running display ads and seeing ads for like suntan lotion on bikinis, which is totally fine, but not in the niche of a Christian blogger. So I was like, I didn't feel like I would have a lot of control over what ads would show. And by the time I needed to start making money, ads were pretty much already kind of on their way out, I felt like.
Well, terrible user experience first. And agreed. So you picked up really early on then what I have been saying all along, which is, first of all, you're going to attract people to you and then send them away. But also the ads that were being displayed through display ads were usually not very relevant to the content that they arrived on to begin with. Because obviously that's a huge disconnect. If I'm coming for Bible teachings and then you're sending me away to go suntan in a bikini, that doesn't make any sense. So do you remember what your first product was that you created?
I was trying to remember this. I don't remember. It might have been, I'm thinking maybe the Real Family's Guide, Chill Family Bible Study, which is not a product that you can purchase anymore.
Okay, but what was the first product? Because you put your kids into private school in 2020, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the thing that you created that like turned the tide where you were making money?
Yeah. And it was right after that, I had some Bible study materials for kids. So little Bible journals that you could print off and use. And then right as I was starting to do the Facebook ads, I created these huge Bible teacher bundles. So it's got all the cards, like get well cards, birthday cards, tons of games ideas, work pages. There's like 300 pages in those bundles of just all kinds of stuff that a Bible teacher would need in a Bible class, Sunday school, whatever.
And you were selling these in like a sales funnel type model so that you had a sales page for it and then they would check out. What did you use for your checkout?
I have been on Shopify for quite a while.
Okay. So even on the sales page, you were linking to the Shopify checkout.
Yes. And I was doing actually workarounds before they came up with their buy buttons. I was in there creating my own links. It was a mess. Shopify with the funnels is not ideal.
Yes. So you hacked it a little bit. When this airs, 2 episodes before this is all about the difference between sales funnels and shops and why you actually still need both, but the checkout does not work for both. You need a dedicated checkout for a sales funnel and a dedicated checkout for your shopping experience because there are a lot of limitations. So everyone that was like, well, what are those limitations? Go back 2 episodes and you can hear all those. So it's interesting. Our paths are kind of like aligned in terms of when things changed in our business because my slip on Facebook ads happened in the summer of 2021. Like when iOS started slipping for everyone, for me, it was like a faucet turned off then, like your faucet turned off in January 2022. But we have similarities because my launch in January 2022 performed 33% to plan, which is not good when you have employees. And so that was like we have to do something different. You hit on something else there, which was in a live launch model. When you're live launching, you need a hype around it, right? So what we all end up doing is like, let's launch something new. And so you would create something new, get hype around it, launch it. And then it was like, okay, well, now I just spent dedicated time talking about it. And now what? Do I have to come up with, again, something new? And so you did that for a little while with the live launching, right? For like a year and a half?
That's correct. And again, I'm introverted. I consider myself a product creator. I'm a creative. So I always doubt my own products. And I hate selling because selling feels like being graded on a product. So I'm already like, oh, I don't know if people are going to love this. Like it's a melancholy thing, and then you go to sell it and you launch it and you've got one opportunity. And so there's all this pressure to make enough money to get you through until you can do the next launch. And then if you don't get the response that you want, there's just this huge letdown and it feels very personal. And then you're like, okay, should I even be here anymore? Should I be doing this? And flash sales have been such a change for me because now, okay, I'm running a flash sale. And then if it doesn't go well, I'm going to run another one next week.
Right.
And all of that pressure of having to make enough for the next couple months is gone. and I can reuse, the same products, try it again 6 months later, tweak the copy a little bit, the sales copy or the sales page, whatever I need to do. It's really taken away a lot of the stress, and it's also giving me practice. And also it feels like I don't have to get myself hyped up nearly as much.
So it becomes just a part of your marketing plan. So everyone knows what we're talking about. So in the digital shop experience, which is my program on developing taking all this hard work we've done and putting it into a shopping experience storefront where you can actually just go and see everything we have to offer, add things to cart and all that. But the issue becomes, and this was the crux and what so many people struggled with, which is why I'm so glad you mentioned it, was you need to get people there. So you can put everything, you can take all this hard work that you've done over the years and put it in a shop. But if you're not talking and directing people to the shop, and this is what I see so many people do. So then they're like, okay, I'll try a digital product shop. I have all these products. I'm going to put it in the shop. And then they forget to point people there. And they're like, well, no one wants my stuff out of the shop. So my shop didn't work. And so part of my philosophy is, listen, like, every week, we should be talking to our list. These people are here because they want stuff from us. This is why they come to us. They want stuff. And in the blogging model, which I think you did for a long time, is the value you were giving was through sending them back to your free blog post. Like, oh, I have this really great activity and I'm going to highlight that. And what that did was everyone got trained to be like, oh, Anna is going to give me everything for free. And it's really hard to run a business or pay for your kids to go to school when you're giving everything away for free. So then you would develop a product and do a launch and it'd be great. You'd talk about it, but now you had nothing to talk about after the launch was over. And then you'd have to wait. You thought you were going to burn them out versus the reverse. And this is what I take from it, that you've now trained them that every week you're going to be highlighting a great new value added thing that you have for sale. That's what you're doing now. And it takes that pressure off.
Correct. And it also gives you a foundation for the entire business because I'm very like squirrel, everywhere. And having the flash sales, setting up my calendar and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to have on flash sale every week. It was like a light turning on like, oh, wait a minute. This is what I should be posting on Facebook and Instagram about every week. It should all be cohesive. So now instead of having to constantly think, okay, what am I going to put on Facebook? And that's going to be different from what I'm emailing about. And it's going to be different from this freebie I put up. Like, no, everything can be all the same. So if I'm running a flash sale on the teacher's bundle for 3rd and 4th grade this week, well, let's talk on Facebook about the bundle. And yeah, I can have a couple other posts in there about an amazing game you can play with your 3rd and 4th graders that points back to the bundle, or, 5 ways to make your 3rd and 4th graders feel special on their birthdays. And oh, by the way, there's a printable card in the bundle. It's like making the whole thing cohesive where it no longer feels like my social media is completely disjointed from my blog, which is disjointed from my emails, which is nothing pointing towards my shop. Now it's all one cohesive thing. And it's way easier for me to wrap my mind around.
And I feel the same way. And it's funny because in corporate, I developed marketing plans. And yet for 7 years doing this full time, I think what happens in the live launch model, and I see it time and time again, is when your live launches are going to happen. So like in terms of having a calendar, like those would be calendared in because there's so much energy that you have to put in to an actual like huge sales event that you're like for me, I have to make sure like my kids are in school because if they're home, then that's going to be really hard to do. And so like I knew every year, like we would live launch in January, April, August, and then Black Friday was kind of like the 4th one of the year. And so we had those, but there's a lot of time in between that. And we kind of just, like you said, we're squirrel. It was like, okay, we just did this big promo. Everything was about it. That was the only time like our social media, like you said, would match what we were talking about. But then it was over and it'd be like, uh-oh, now what do we do on these 2 down months? So we were burned out. We thought we'd burned out our list because, we were like, it was so many emails in such a concentrated time that they usually weren't getting from us. And so then it was just kind of like, well, I guess we have to entice them. So we'll create something new on the downtime. And then we would do that, but that would be time to go into a new launch. And so all this work we were doing there was nowhere for people to go to see all the great things we had to offer because we were always on to the next thing. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yes, absolutely. And then there's so much, and there's really good courses and good material out there geared towards bloggers. Well, this is how you grow a huge Facebook following. This is how you create reels on Instagram. This is how you do Pinterest, like all of this stuff. And it can just become so overwhelming to try. I'm tired of creating tons of content for no purpose.
And that is like, unfortunately, the blogging model as it was taught was that. It was a lot of like, let's throw spaghetti on a wall and see what sticks. And then when we saw what stuck, let's create more of that. But yet the end game was always missed. The end game should have been, how are you making money? Now let's create content that leads to what we're making money. And it was just backwards. Like, let's create a lot of free content and be value led. And there's nothing, it's funny because when I talk about selling, I'm always like, I'm not saying you shouldn't offer value. Like, it will be in different forms. Like for you, you still have plenty of valuable blog posts that help people for free. That like you can get events value. For me, it's the podcast because I'm an auditory processor. So it made sense that you can go back, 60 some episodes and get lots of value from me. But when it comes to once you're in my world, a business sells. Like that's what we do. You can't be, and just like you, it's funny because like, I'm sure you can relate to my sentiment. Like I always say, when I'm sitting here in my desk, I want to help you. But in order for me to be sitting at my desk and like I paid for a full-time nanny for 4 years while I was building the business, I needed to make money. Otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here helping you. So there just has to be that exchange. Like for you to not be homeschooling, you need to be making money to send your kids to school. Right?
Correct. And even in a business model, I think a lot of people ask this, well, I don't have an email audience yet. And so I was real big into creating this email audience way back in the day. I had a post all of a sudden go viral. I had 3,000 signups in a period of like 4 days. And guess what that means when your email audience all of a sudden explodes? It means you've got to pay for the list. And I didn't have at that point a good product. And I was like, my audience is going to bankrupt my business.
Which is like such a good illustration of how important it is to know the end game. You know what I equate it to? I always say, so when I was getting my undergrad, I could not stand some of the gen eds. It was just like, I don't want to take World Civ. Like I just did not want to take it. So if I did not know what the end game was, I wanted my degree. In order to get my degree, I had to take the gen eds. And if I didn't understand the end point, then I would not have shown up at World Civ because I just didn't care about it at all. But it was understanding what my end game was to get there. It's like no different than being in business. It's like you put out this great free content and people like it and then it goes somewhere. And now you have this relationship and you're like, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it.
Yes, totally.
That is the blogging game. So, but you eventually picked up on the fact that products were where it's at. And then you found the Facebook faucet, which many people found, which is fabulous. You have these products, they start making money, and then the faucet turns off. And now you're in oh boy, what do I do now mode. So how did the shop become a thing? Like, because you had Shopify, you said, but
yes,
but you weren't really sending people there or making it a central call to action. Like what was the rub for you?
And that really was getting on your list and then hearing about digital shop experience. And when I was like, okay, I'm already on Shopify and she's going to talk about how to do digital products on Shopify. I'm like, well, that's me. And I was desperate at that point. And I'm like, I have got to either turn this thing around or by the end of January 2023, I'll be looking for a job.
Whoa.
So I was very desperate by that point. A little bit of personal story as well. My daughter, all through the fall of 2022, had been very sick with asthma related stuff in ER, just not doing really well. I was focused on her. And then right after Christmas, my son ended up at our children's hospital here in diabetic ketoacidosis with a diagnosis of type 1 insulin-dependent diabetes. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to work full time. And this is a terrible time for my family for me to go back to work full time. So I could pull my girls out of school, their senior year, which would be this coming year, don't really want to do that. So I'm like, I have got to do something. I've got to start selling, be okay with it. And so your program was just great timing and just really a godsend for me.
Oh, wow. That makes me feel so honored, honestly, because that is, in a nutshell, that is why I do what I do. Even though like I've always been clear that in order to do this, I need to get paid because that's just the way this works. It was always with the intent to help people have access, especially women, to have access to, because when I was in corporate, just like you said with your 12-hour shifts when you were a nurse, like that's essentially what my being in corporate was. By the time I dropped my daughter off and I got her home, she was going to bed. I like deeply, I don't like using the word regret, but I missed the first 3 years of my first daughter's life, essentially, and it was like, but yet I had this passion and ambition. There just had to be a better way, like
I feel so trapped.
Yes. And that's what I really like. I still work full time in my business, but like my second baby, I had home with me and I just created a dynamic for me. What worked, it was having a nanny, but like we would have lunch together. And it is actually really weird now because she's in preschool and the house is quiet for several hours a day. And I'm like, I never thought I would say I miss it, but I do. I really, really do. And so like, to be put in that situation where you have to make the choice between being there for your kids and making money, because that's what we need to do to pay for all these things to support them, is a really like tough place to be in.
Yeah, it is. But we have so many more opportunities now than women have ever had in the past. And that's what's just amazing. And so I started taking the digital shop experience and I loved the program. As a solopreneur, I don't have a ton of time to research stuff. So there were so many how-to videos and just step-by-step plan just to walk me through really improving my store. And I think the best things I loved, some of the checklists for finances. I don't like numbers. And I know you always say, I've got it on like auto repeat. Numbers are not emotional. Numbers tell a story. I didn't even know what numbers to track until I started getting into some of these sheets and eye opener. Things like I wrote down, I had been working hours and hours in the Teachers Pay Teacher store as well. It's a great platform because in the fall of 2022, you're talking about throwing spaghetti against the wall. I was throwing lasagna noodles, elbow macaroni. I think a pack of dry ramen went up against the wall. Like nothing was sticking. So I was doing a Teachers Pay Teacher store. I started a joint Etsy store with somebody else. I created all kinds of products. I mean, just frantic, looking to see what I could do to turn this around.
So in those models and Teachers Pay Teachers and Etsy, they're great because they're a marketplace and there's built-in traffic, but you still had a conundrum. Well, first of all, you don't own the customer data. I've talked about all that. So like you could get sales with the built-in traffic and that was obviously great. Like why not get sales from built-in traffic? But two conundrums. One, then you couldn't really circle back to the people who were buying there. And two, you still had this email list to leverage.
Yeah. Well, and when I started that coming back to digital shop experience, I started putting in my numbers and looking at them. Okay, what story are the numbers telling me? Oh man, for March of this year, I made $502 in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. I also made $241 in my Shopify store from Google search.
Awesome.
I hadn't spent any time on it all, like half of that amount. And I didn't even know where that traffic was coming from. I'm like, wait a minute, I spent hours and hours here and made half as much over here with no time or thought at all. That's where you've got to start looking at the numbers and be like, okay, going back to the Facebook ads, if you make $2,000 in 1 month with no Facebook ads, and in the following month, you make $4,000 gross sales, but you spent $2,000 on Facebook ads and you've done all this work and your net profit is $2,000 for both months, you haven't moved the needle.
Right.
And I think for a lot of bloggers, we go in this circle and we're not moving the needle. We don't know how. And so we just try to do more.
That is the story of online business. Pump out more content, do more, and never leverage what you've already done.
Yeah. So back to the digital shop experience, those checklists and watching your numbers is so helpful. Having the checklist on how to set things up. There's videos in there on how to do different apps. I don't have time to research Shopify apps. I'm sorry. I didn't even know what apps are out there. I don't even know what I need. So to be able to go through and just say, okay, this app is recommended. I'll put it in my store this week, and next week I'll get to the next recommended app. And it's been amazing to watch Honeycomb and Frequently Bought Together, some of those apps start working.
We have a whole episode about the 5 top apps I recommend, so we'll link to that so people can go listen if they want. But I heard that feedback I got a lot, because with any new project that you pick up, like, so if you're going to do a shop and you're like, okay, I mean, there's a million different apps in the app store to help enhance the experience that my people can have in my shop. Where do I start? And I just lay out, and it just cuts out all of the questions. It's like, just go get these 5 apps and install them. And this is what they do. And this is how you set them up. But can we circle back to March real quick? So you said you made $500 TPT. You got $250 from Google search to your shop without trying. So you didn't implement SEO strategies. It just was. But how much did you make in your shop from your emails?
So I'll give you my best numbers here. And back, 2022. And I was going to say, my sales are very seasonal. I have a lot of holiday stuff, and I don't have a lot of years now because I'm so new at starting some of this stuff. And then if I go back too far, I've got like Facebook ads messing everything up. But for March and April of 2022, I made negative $164.61 between those 2 months. I took Digital Shop Experience. Was it beginning or middle of January?
Middle of January.
I ran my first, I'm just like, I'm going with this. So I ran my first flash sale the last week of January. So between March and April of this year together, I made net profit after taxes of $5,700 from my Shopify store.
Wow.
And that I would attribute pretty much all of that to the Digital Shop Experience.
Because now you're just regularly emailing, directing people to the shop. You've made it like the bedrock central call to action. And
Correct.
That's where you direct people. So I am right when I say prior to having the central place that you were directing people, you were really sending them to like, here's a blog post when you would email. What were your emails like before you were selling regularly?
Correct. Blog post with freebies and stuff. Yep.
Okay, can we talk about your freebie resource library? Because this is a hot topic amongst bloggers. And so I've never personally had one, but I've recognized very early on seeing people. So the whole concept of a freebie, you have this blog post, you're like, hey, in order to incentivize someone opting into my email list, so you understood the importance of that, here's this worksheet that supplements what I just showed you in this blog post. And to streamline it, you put everything in a free resource library. So you could direct people back to the free resource library to see all these great things that you created for free, but that would help enhance their experience with the things that you were teaching on your blog, essentially.
Kind of, but worse than that. Blog post with all of these different crafts. I mean, we're talking like 50 free resources, all had their own opt-in.
So the amount of work that was,
oh my God.
I mean, because then you have to have 50 different opt-ins to your email service provider. Were they all connected to different sequences? Did you have 50 different sequences that were clear?
Yes. Download yes.
And so here's the brilliance of a shop. None of that is necessary anymore. All you need is really how many opt-ins have you narrowed it down to? Because you still need ways for people to get on your email list.
Yeah. So I am still in the process of going back and doing all of these posts and some of the good crafts, because some of them are just like a 1-page little craft thing. So I'm throwing them up in the store for like $2. And I am surprised. Part of the reason that I didn't do this before was I was like, well, nobody would spend $2. Nobody's going to pull out their credit card for $2. People do. Mm-hmm. And it does add up. But I'm also looking at it completely differently where I'm starting to really get into the funnel building. I'm doing your whole program like backwards. So well, first and now funnel. But I'm getting into some of that and being like, okay, I'm starting with what is my main product? It's still these teachers bundles. I'm working backwards so that now all of my opt-ins are going to flow into a good sequence where the opt-in I'm working on right now is 5 amazing Bible lesson review games. It's just a printable. It gives you the instructions. And then that's tripwire, right into the whole set of 19 amazing games for third and fourth graders. If you go ahead and purchase that, and that's on a huge discount, then you're going to get offered the upsell to the whole bundle.
Okay.
So I think starting, instead of just being like, oh, Christmas is coming, what craft should I make a blog post about and it being a freebie? Like, no, it's all with a purpose of leading people into the products and ultimately into the larger bundle.
The experience that you just explained is almost every blogger's experience. So basically like the level, this is how I've seen the blogging happen. We've got the bloggers who figured out how to get people to them, but then chose to monetize through display ads. And then they were sending everyone away. So it was like the only money they were making was display ad. And they were really kind of either resistant or slow to want to get people on their email list, mainly because they realized even if they couldn't articulate it, they're like, well, I'm sending people away. Why do I need an email list? It was kind of like those. So they kind of got stuck there. Then the next level blogger, where you were, is, okay, I recognize the value of getting people on my email list. So now I guess I need an opt-in for every single blog post the disconnect was that you don't need 50 opt-ins to get people to opt in. You just need a few really solid ones that meet people where they're at for why they're coming to your website to begin with. That doesn't mean 50. It just means a few solid ones. And then once you get those solid funnels built in, then you can move on once they're in your world to developing more stuff to help them that's paid, which is the key. But like what happened with you and many bloggers is it became, well, I'll just create something else for free.
Correct. And the brilliance of having the whole starting from the product and working backwards, now that I've got my opt-in, 5 amazing games, well, I've got 5 posts right there to write up about each game. And nobody's going to want to have to sit there and handwrite the instructions of this game. So of course, they're going to want the printable. So, and then I can start to rework that in different ways too. So now I'm not just sitting down each week saying, what should I put a blog post about? I know what I need to be blogging about.
And you only need to blog when you know it will lead into how you get paid. So this is why I say sales funnels and shops, I've been saying they go together like PB&J because that's all my daughter eats nowadays, which is, mom humor for everyone. But it's true because if you're going to spend time attracting people to you, you have to give them I call it a hyper specific buying journey, essentially. Because imagine if someone new comes to you and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go direct you to 50 products in my shop. Good luck picking out which one works for you. Like that's not a good user experience. You still want to be very clear, like this is the journey I'm bringing them on. That's the whole point of the sales funnel. But now they're in your world and you're like, okay, well, I have all these other great things for you. It becomes this thing of like, how do you allow them to see all those things and send them to 50 different sales pages? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like let's build another sales page, which we all know, building a sales page, then you got to build the checkout and then you have to build yet another post-purchase. And so the thing that throws people, and I wonder how you saw this. So once you get everything in a shop, every single product in a shop doesn't need to connect to its own like buying sequence. Because if you add 5 things to your cart, then you're going to trigger people to have 5 different emails that fire. That doesn't make sense. Like that doesn't happen with Amazon. It's just, instead it's like, okay, here's your purchase instructions, just like you would get from any other retailer. Is that how you're doing it?
Yes. And that's been huge too, because I did used to have individual emails to give them all of the downloads. And people, especially when, again, I have the teaching resources, a teacher comes in, it's Mother's Day, just past Mother's Day. They come in and they're like, okay, I want a craft for Mother's Day for Sunday school. And they come in and then they're like, oh, there's also worksheets that I could hand out on Sunday morning for Mother's Day. Oh, and there's also the same craft for Father's Day and worksheets for Father's Day. I might as well grab all 4 products while I'm here.
Right. Versus before when you had them all separate, the only thing they could grab from you was the Mother's Day, because that's all that the sales page would talk about.
Correct. And if you are creating like funnels and sales pages for all of this stuff, there's no point to create a funnel or sales page for a $2 product.
Right.
It's just way too much work. And I think that's part of too, where I was like, okay, well, I'll just put this stuff as freebies. It's only a 1-page, but it is a 1-page printable that's super useful. And teachers that come in and get like a Mother's Day craft or something, they're going to use that over and over again for years to come. They don't have to think about it anymore. It's valuable to them.
Right.
But if it's a low cost item, you're not going to create all these different funnels for it. And so you don't have any way to offer it to people.
Thank you. Exactly. When I think of all the things that I would create, and then I'm like, well, but the energy to spin this up to its own sales page, its own checkout, connect a sequence to it is hours of time. It makes no sense. And like, how many times am I going to be able to even mention it? Because you can't have 40 calls to action in an email. So like, there was just no cohesive, what it all comes down to is we're not allowing people a cohesive way to buy stuff from us. We're just kind of like, well, go here, now go there. And oh, that's difficult. So let me just send them to a free thing.
And then you throw in some of this, like Mother's Day is a great example. Different countries celebrate it at different times. And I've got a very international audience. So if I'm just sending out emails to it, if it's in my shop, people can access it when they need it.
Okay. So tell me, this is one more thing I want to, because I could talk to you about this forever. But one of the things that stood out to me that you said to me was how, like, you went in thinking, oh my gosh, if I start selling every week, people are going to get mad at me. And you found that that did not happen. What ended up happening once you started selling regularly?
Yeah. So I got a lot more negative feedback when I was selling once every 2 to 3 months and doing all the freebies in between. I was getting those emails like, how dare you try to sell to me? And I'm in the religious Christian niche. So it was, this is your ministry. You should be giving men stuff for free. When I started selling every week, I started seeing a lot more unsubscribes, but I stopped getting the negative feedback. Now, here's the funny thing. Every time I send out a flash sale, I know I'm going to get 200 or 300 unsubscribes through those 3 days. But I am matching that with my Wheelio signups,
which is the gamification to get new people in your shop to sign up for a discount.
Correct. Through Shopify. So yeah, I'm losing people. I don't care. I'm gaining people as well. Those who want to purchase or who still have need of what I'm selling will stick around. Those who don't, that's fine. Like that's not personal. I don't care about that. It
solves the issue that you mentioned already, where you were collecting people that were then costing you money and you weren't selling to them. And so now you're weeding out essentially people who want to be around and want to purchase the things from you because they see the value in it. You're keeping them and you're regularly reminding them that you have great things that can help them and make teaching easier for them. But the people who are like, no, I was just here for the freebie, they weed themselves out. And it's like this, I keep saying, it's like the best way to describe it. It's like magic. It feels like magic, really. Like the more I sell, the more people are happy with me. And the people who don't want to be here now just leave. And everyone's happy. It's like, I get people asking me in my emails if they miss a Friday email, because that's our regular flash sales that we do every week. They're like upset that they didn't get an email and the email was for them to pay me money. So they're upset that they don't get to pay me money. What do you think about that? That's what's happening now. People are upset that I'm not giving them a way to pay me money if they miss an email.
Yeah. And I think a lot of bloggers are scared that they're going to lose a ton of people or people are going to be mad at them. And one thing that I had to keep thinking in my mind, I get, I don't know, oodles of emails from Bath and Body Works. Like they go straight to my spam, but I don't unsubscribe because I know once every 2 or 3 months, I'm going to want to go in and buy a candle. And there's going to be an email there that I can buy from. So when it's somebody that I know that I'm going to eventually buy from, it doesn't bother me.
Exactly. Every day we have to weed through the amount of micro decisions that we weed through in our brain, especially when going through emails of like, what do I want to look at? So what people end up doing is like, they scan and then they decide which ones are going to be relevant to me now or which ones am I going to put off to the side. And it's like going in and regularly selling, there will always be those people as you gain an audience and stuff who are like, I will buy everything she puts out. I have those people. But you know what? Eventually I'm going to in this model, eventually you circle back to those products that they already have and they'll just learn to weed out, oh, I already have that. And then they'll move on and wait It's almost like a mentor once said, stay out of their wallet. And I was like, oh, exactly. Because the process of selling is not you like, you have to pay me money and you're shoving it in their face. Instead, you're just presenting them with, hey, I have this thing. It can help you. It's on sale this week. The autonomy for them to choose is there. There's no force behind it. It's just, hey, there's this great thing for you.
Yes. And I think maybe stepping back from our own products too, because I can get so like looking at my products and be like, well, it's not that hard to create. Anybody could create this and forget. No, people don't know how to use the programs. They don't have the commercial license graphics that I do. But these products really, really help people. And if I can pick on somebody in the Empowered Business Society, I saw a lady recently put up something about a pool party planning pack. Does that have the ability to change somebody's life? Somebody who's maybe been scared to invite a new neighbor over or hasn't connected with his family in a while. Maybe a new relationship is formed, mental health is better, and it could have lifelong impact. It's a digital pool party planning pack for people like me who think mowing the lawn is the best fun you can have. Like, we need something like this. And so we have to kind of step back and say, no, our products can change the world and can do immeasurably good. But if we are producing them, but not selling them, we might as well be throwing them under our bed. They're not going to have the impact we want. And so the shop really helps us to get there, to have that impact. And it's not about being sleazy. I mean, yes, we love to make money, but more than that, we want to change people's lives with these things. And that shop gives us the ability to do that.
And do you feel like that's when you would get pushback with people would say like, this is your ministry, it should be free, that now it's like, this is my ministry and this is how I provide value. I'm able to do this because I'm making money off of it. Because if you weren't, how much of this would you have created if you weren't making money? Because you have to make money because that's what allows you. Like, otherwise you would have to go back to work because you have these obligations. We all have responsibilities in our life,
Right.
So there's just absolutely nothing wrong with our ministry being, I'm serving, and the way I'm able to serve is I have to get paid for this.
Yes. And I had to actually step back. There was one really negative one, and I emailed this person back and said, I'm saving you time here. You could create it. I said, here's the link to go buy the commercial graphics. Here's the link to the paid program that I use. And if you dedicate the next 12, 14 hours, you might be able to make this one-page printable too. You got that option. Go for it. You don't have to buy my stuff.
Now, is that an email you would have sent even a year ago?
I'm getting a lot more feisty. Yeah.
I love it. I love it, because I've always thought too, selling, and I hope if not, this helps people who struggle with this, because when I was in corporate, I always viewed interviewing as a two-way street. This is a dialogue. And I always aced interviews, I felt like, for that, because I didn't go in feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to say all the right things. Otherwise, I'm not gonna get this job. Instead, it was like, I've had interviewers before that I was like, I don't even want to work for you. Like, I'm not going to perform for you. And that's very similar to selling. Like, if somebody doesn't understand the value that you're providing, then happily you can go on your way. I view buying and selling as a two-way street. Like, it has helped me eliminate a lot of the negative people, because it's like, that's fine. I don't want you buying my stuff then if you don't see the value. There's the door. And it's I'm not upset. I don't have to be upset. It's just, I love that. How it makes it flow so much better. I could talk about this topic forever. So where can people go and find you on the internet?
kidsbibleteacher.com. My store is at kids-bible-teacher.com.
Perfect. And we'll link to all of this. And now it's going to be super easy to get on Anna's email list and also to pay her money for all the great things that she's providing into the world. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I really hope you enjoyed my interview with Anna. Two main things I think are important to take away from today's episode. Number one, the value you provide your audience should not just be through free things. Your free things should lead them to the ultimate thing that's going to give them a transformation, which is your paid products. That's number one. So if you are a blogger with a free resource library, take a page from Anna's book and move that over to a digital product shop. Number 2, selling does not have to be scary. Selling is how we provide value to our audience. And the more you sell and the more consistent you are with selling, the easier it becomes and the more people will appreciate it. So how we can accomplish both of those things is with the digital shop experience. If you have been creating content for any amount of time online, you have a ton of blog posts, you have a free resource library, you have a paid membership, you have a paid program, you've been creating digital products for a long time. You are primed to create a cohesive shopping experience for your audience, and I can help you do that in the digital shop experience, which is open right now. You just have to head on over to digitalshopexperience.com, and all of the information about how I can help you turn your business into a money-making machine every single week. You can learn more there, digitalshopexperience.com. I hope to see you inside. I hope you have enjoyed the last 4 episodes of our series on digital product shops. And if you have any questions, you can always connect with me over at Instagram. My handle is monica.froese, F-R-O-E-S-E. Please send me a DM. Let's chat. I'd love to help you build your digital product shop.